now we are in for our second session, which is a panel discussion on future of special steels in the country. And I welcome all the delegates again, and I welcome all the panelists. We have with us, starting from Mr. C.H. Sharma. As we all know, C.H. Sharma is a veteran in special steel sector, had a long experience in Mukun Steel, Hospet Steel, then Nico, and now he is advisor to SLR Metallics. Thank you very much, Mr. C.H. Sharma, for joining in this very important panel discussion. Then
Thank
I would
you.
like to welcome Mr. Udayan Pathak. Udayan Pathak is from Tata Motors. He has been in Tata Motors for almost 20 years now, Mr. Pathak.
No, 12 years.
12 years. And before that, he was also in Trinity Engineers for some time, I believe.
No, I was with John Deere and Bharat Forge.
Bharat Forge. Okay, okay. So he has a very long experience of special steels, and he has been associated with this conference. I think from very first conference, Mr. Pathak, you are there.
Right.
As far as I remember, either
Yes.
you are a panelist or you are a speaker, or you, of course, you have been advising us for subjects, for themes, and for speakers also. Thank you very much for your participation and your support to this platform. And welcome to you for this panel discussion, Mr. Pathak.
Thank you.
We have the third panelist is Mr. Rajkamal Srivastav. Rajkamal Srivastav is a star marketeer of special steels in the country today, and he has a very long innings with Jaiswal Nico. So yeah, that's what else, Rajkamal ji? What else can I say about you?
Yeah, I have close to 35 years.
35 years, yes.
Special steels only.
Yes. So that's what I said. Star marketeer of special steel in the country. So we have very expert and very eminent panel here, and we are going to discuss the future of special steels in the country. I would like to start obviously from Mr. C.H. Sharma sir. C.H. Sharma sir, what do you think? How are the special steels faring, and what are the new concepts or what are the new trends which you are seeing in the special steels? You have seen lot of time, like 40 plus years in the industry.
I almost completed 5 decades, you can say, 49 years already.
Oh, wow.
And I am in the 50th year.
Great.
I'll start with what I saw in the beginning. Maybe in 70s, you had couple of alloy steel plants, to name few like Musco or JKW or VISL or ASP or some Bihar alloys started at that time. And the steel was made in small quantities in ingots, no secondary refining, no continuous casting, no vacuum degassing. So that was a start of the special steel. But in mid 80s, some of the steel plants started with secondary steel making, with ladle refining, vacuum degassing, and continuous casting. And I think the acceptability of the steel started. Most of the industries which came in mid 80s, like Maruti or Hero or others, started approving local steel with lot of, you can say, difficulty. We were able to meet the requirement. But as the time passed in mid 90s, the steel making has shifted also to only the arc furnace to blast furnace route. Initially, everybody thought the blast furnace or a mini blast furnace is only for making mild steel or a carbon steel. Nobody will be able to make alloy steel. But I think that proved wrong. Today, most of the capacities today in the country are either through totally hot metal route or partly hot metal, partly you can say DRI or scrap route in the arc furnace. So now I think people have realized that electricity, we heard in the first session, is very expensive in many areas. The electrode in between was very costly. Scrap is not available. The only route which is available is to use 60 to 80% or 85% hot metal. And we need to, go through this route. Of course, ingots are now totally gone or very few. Only for certain sections you need or certain industry. So 95% steel is now through continuous casting and ladle refining. And I think today nobody accepts any steel without vacuum degassing. So now the special steel process route is almost decided that it will be mini blast furnace with either with some scrap or no scrap or little scrap, return scrap, balance ladle refining, vacuum degas, continuous casting with lot of features on continuous casting with auto mold control or electromagnetic stirrer 1 or 2. So steel making has been almost decided for special steel now in the country. The demand, which is to my knowledge of special steel out of 120 million, is roughly about 7 million today. And with the growth, I'm expecting that if we are talking about 300 million, it will be 5 to 6%. So it may get doubled as the steel requirement will get doubled. This will also become double. And today I can tell you that anybody coming with the forging plant or export of component is finding not so difficult to get a steel in the country. Either he goes to X, Y, Z, depending on the zone or the sizes it requires. He approaches any of the steel mill, he is able to get the steel. Because today I can tell you that the difference between say 10 or 15 whatever alloy steel plant we have in the country, the difference in the quality is very marginal today. I can tell you that everybody is able to develop, some may in short time, some may take more time, but it is possible to get say 95% of the quality of the steel, means some odd grades where the requirement may be very small. Maybe we will not be like to produce because it is not advantageous to produce that steel. But otherwise, I think developing steel in our country for any export or a local requirement has become very common. So I can tell you that special steel has traveled a long way. I remember when I used to see truck breakdown or a car breakdown on the roads, I used to feel as a metallurgist very, very, low, because we thinking that our steels are not good for these vehicles. But today you can see the most of the vehicles do not need any spare component even up to 1 lakh kilometer. So this is the achievement of special steel in our country, because hardly any steel is now imported in our components, or you can say critical components. So I think steel industry or a steel makers have done a wonderful job. I will compliment my colleague who have done the development over the period in last say 40, 50 years. And the life in the steel plants have also become little easy. What I have seen 50 years back, if you work in the steel plant and come home, the family used to ask whether you are a really engineer or a majdoor. That was our situation. Today you can go in good clothes and work in the steel industry because the environment has changed. You have AC cabins to even work in the most of the plants, and also the atmosphere overall is much cleaner and better. The conditions have also changed, and I think we have a very good future in the steel industry. And even though the demands on the steel quality are very strict today, we want very narrow chemistry, very low Jomini value, very good surface quality. Now everybody demanding check by ultrasonic, which is automatic ultrasonic, not by manual ultrasonic. So all these demands are being met by the industry today. So we have come a very long way.
Yeah.
So with this, I think these are my opening remarks,
Yeah,
and
thanks.
maybe we can discuss
Yes,
further.
definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Mr. Sharma. And really, the steel, especially the special steel sector, has come a very long way. I remember in Mukund, there used to be a ingot casting in Kurla, very long in 80s, I think. So from that, and in some cases, OEMs were not accepting concast material also. Only ingot route was accepted, isn't it, Rajkamal? So those were the days. But we have come a long way. We have come a long way. And I would now, yeah, you are muted.
Yeah. True. Reduction ratio, grain flow,
Yeah.
ingot route, all hot tops, Things have moved
Yeah.
from all from steel making used to be an art. Now it has become a technology.
Yes. So, but now I would like to go to Mr. Pathak. Mr. Pathak, yes, all said and done, Special Seals has traveled a long way. But how do you see Special Seals sector from the other side? That means the customer side. You are the end customer for Special Seals. I would like you to comment on the future, but before that, I would like you to comment also on the budget and what this
Okay.
budget has done for Special Seals, especially to auto components also, and how it will affect the auto industry also.
Okay. So I will start with some little background about what is happening in the automotive industry directly
Yeah.
before directly jumping to the steels. A major success story of Indian automotive industry is first time in the world skipping one emission stage. The Indian automotive industry has migrated from BS4 to BS6. Uh, that was the major jump, I will say. Even in the European countries, there were two phases, that is BS4 to BS5 and BS5 to BS6. And we jumped directly from BS4 to BS6. And whatever the lag between the European emission norms and Indian emission norms, that gap was built. And now we are at par almost with the world. And that is, I will say, a biggest achievement of Indian automotive industry. Of course, there were certain surprises, pleasant surprises, I will say, when the Indian emission program, that is BS2 to BS3, BS3 to BS4, some timeline was given by government to automotive industry. At that point of time, of course, everybody was not as per the timeline, and we were slightly delayed. And every time, fortunately, we got the support of non-availability of fuel in time. And since fuel was not available in time, we could get some more margin to upgrade our technology and match with the technologies and the norms which were put by the government. But when we was looking for a BS4 to BS6, practically all of us were under the same impression that the fuel availability will be delayed by about 6 months to 1 year. So that is the grace time all of us will get. To our shock, the fuel was available almost 6 months in advance than the deadline that was given. So automotive industry was caught in the corner. Of course, we were kind of on the job, and we could manage the timelines, and that's the biggest jump that has taken place. So while this change has happened, there are other two parameters which are coming out in the Indian trends, if I will say. One is the safety. This particular, yeah, Parvinder, some question?
No.
Okay.
Continue, sir.
Okay. So while these emission norms being thought of by government, another factor that Indian government has come out very strongly for automotive industry is the safety. Probably one of the reason is one of the very influential cabinet minister of this country had lost his life second day after the swearing in, associated with Maharashtra, Mr. Gopinath Munde. The accident was not really very serious from the automotive point of view, but he was not wearing the safety belt, and that's the reason the gravity of injuries were multifold, and he could not survive. So probably government has taken this safety program very seriously from that point of view, and of course the electrification, which is the buzzword today. On the safety front, I could see a lot of opportunities for steel mills. That is the requirement of high strength steel, ultra high strength steel, advanced high strength steels, etc. There are different names, but those are the opportunities available for this supply of the steel for Indian automotive industry. Still, that is a challenge because we are still importing, and some of the companies in India like Tata Steels have developed some of the lines. I'm not sure about the other steel mills. Probably my other colleagues in panelists can probably throw light on this, but that is another requirement. With EV coming in, the biggest challenge is the weight of the vehicle is going up because of the battery. The plus point is, though the vehicle weight is increasing, it is not concentrated on one part, because now there will be motors on the four different wheels of the particular vehicle, and the major portion and battery again is not consolidated at one place. It is spread over the floor. So the flow of the weight or the balancing of the vehicle is very good. And with electric vehicle, that is another challenge, that we also need to reduce the weight of the vehicle, and there again the high strength steel is going to play a major role. Sometime back, about 10-15 years back, or maybe 20 years back, when people were demanding that steels should be available in the coated or colored material steel, probably my friends like Raj Kamal used to laugh at us. What are you asking from us? We are steel maker and not the painters. But today that is the reality. We can see a lot of pre-coated steels that is available. Similarly, with electric vehicles, another challenge that automotive industry is going to face is EMI, EMC, that is electromagnetic interference and electromagnetic compatibility. So can we have some of the properties developed in the steel to support this EMI, EMC? Of course, one of the known steel is high silicon CRGO steel, which is helped in the transformer. One can think of, steel mill can think of working jointly with automotive industry, that even the normal steels, can it be the way like we are providing the painted steel or painted sheets? Can there be EMI, EMC coated steels that can be available? So that is a business opportunity and the innovation opportunities for Indian industry I am seeing. That is as far as the Indian trends are concerned. If we look at global trends, people are talking about autonomous vehicle. Again, when I say autonomous vehicle, there is again a debate that's happening, that if the autonomous vehicle is going to be the future of automotive industry and there is not going to be any accident, why there is a need of these ultra high strength steel and high strength steels, etc. Because there is not going to be a collision. So even instead of kind of ultra high strength steel and etc., having such a robust structures or crumple zone and all those kind of thing, can we have simple mild steel to build the bodies of the vehicle? So that even people are thinking about, people are talking about. I don't know how much reality, how much definitely is going to be a reality. The only question is what is going to be the time. And another area that is coming out with this autonomous industry is artificial intelligence and large data. So again here, though not steel, but as a metallurgy, there is a large contribution. Those of us who are familiar with computers may be knowing there used to be a kind of bulky tapes for carrying the electronic data or data in the electronic format. Today there are small chips in the vehicles which are acting as the kind of ECUs, electric control units, electronic control units. So those kind of things are there, and there is a contribution from metallurgy. But probably steels will not be able to contribute much in this area. This is, I'm talking about the Indian trends and the global trends. And with that, Mr. Sharma has already said that some of the hygiene factor, that is the warranty of the vehicle and the guarantee of the components, what we are giving today has gone multifold. Even in the oils, we are talking about the fill for life oils. Practically, as you know, many times I used to travel from Pune to Mumbai, and at least a dozen of trucks I used to find halted in the Ghat section because of breakdowns of some of the components like axles, etc. But the quality of steel has really gone drastically. Even though we migrated from the ingot to concast, the quality of concast steel also has gone up. And today, practically, you will see there is not a single truck in that Ghat section which is stalled because of some breakage of the critical component. So thanks to the steel industry for supporting us. And of course, I have been a part of this journey because as an end user, I was needing various steels. While in Bharat Forge, we were strongly advocated this concast steel. And when I become the part of OE in John Deere, we were thinking of rationalizing steel mills, rationalizing steel specifications, and going away with the need of reduction ratio. because see, ultimately what is reduction ratio? Reduction ratio is nothing but it is, guaranteeing us some of the soundness of the steel, etc. So probably we would like to leave it to the steel mills as to how they improve on their process and how they give the end result. Probably those were the specifications where even the steel mills were not probably clear about the requirement, and then that time the people or the OE metallurgists used to intervene into the steel making process and say we want 6:1 reduction ratio, some of the critical component 10:1 reduction ratio. But I feel so long as the steel mills are able to give the guarantee about the soundness of the steel, all these have no meaning in moving forward. So that is on the technical part of the discussion, opening remarks. Coming to the latest union budget, from the automotive point of view, if I look at, there are three areas which I will say which are very influential for us. One is the auto component duty, import duty, which was earlier 7.5 to 10%, has gone up to 15%. It means we have to localize the content of our vehicle to a great extent and to make sure that we make India Atmanirbhar, and probably that is the focus of government, and automotive industry will be supporting this move to make sure that we leverage on the low cost of the local automotive components, and obviously the steel will also playing a crucial role into it. Another part which is probably bad for this audience of this segment is the import duty of steel has been reduced from 10% to 7.5%. So about 2.5% reduction is there. So that means the competition is available. In the first session I was listening, somebody was talking about the cost of steel, etc. Then lot of challenges which are faced by the automotive industry, particularly tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, in terms of the stocks to be held up and what the kind of cost, etc. So that is going to be, the challenge is going to be further tougher. Another good factor for both automotive industry as well as for steel industry is the vehicle scrapping policy. The government is coming up with this scrapping policy wherein the commercial vehicle of 15 years age and private vehicles of 20 years age will be scrapped, and government is giving a lot of subsidies, a lot of expected to give a lot of tax benefits on the work vehicles which will be purchased after the scrapping of the old vehicle. That is one part that will increase the number of vehicles, the demand of the number of vehicles. And the most important thing is 5 scrapping centers being planned so that the vehicles can be scrapped at those points. And for the steel industry, what I see is the availability of good quality of scrap that will be available from these 5 centers, because whatever the vehicles those will be scrapped, the major portion of it will be the steel, and today probably it will meet the demand of good quality of scrap, because that's going to be fairly as clean and good quality of scrap. That is one part. If you look at today's Times of India, there is an article by our chairman, Mr. Chandra, and he said very clearly that the focus on the quality spending is one of the focus area of this budget. So that is going to help. Infra pipeline is about 7,400 infra projects that is being talked of by the government. And this 7,400 projects will support 250 allied industry, which will be the beneficiaries of these projects. Of course, automotive industry is going to be the one, and another industry that is going to be the steel is going to be one of them. One is the direct from the infra projects, and indirectly from the increase in the automotive vehicles, and that is the need of steel that will go on increasing, and that is how indirectly it will support steel industry also. So with that, I would like to stop with the opening remarks, and as we move ahead, I will be glad to share my views.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Pathak. One thing I forgot to mention while introducing Mr. Pathak is that he is chairman of ASM International Pune chapter.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I forgot to mention that. And thank you very much for your opening comments, Mr. Pathak. Now I would go to the celebrated marketeer of special steels, Mr. Rajkamal Srivastava. Mr. Rajkamal, what are your opening comments? How is special steels doing? What has this budget done to you? and how is special steel, especially in central India, is faring? Tell all of us this.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody.
Yes. Morning.
See, as Mr. Chandekar was discussing, we have really seen the transformation of, especially in steel industry, from ingot route, from lounder type furnaces to all latest modern technology, blast furnace route, basic route, and all major steel is being produced now from basic route, iron ore route instead of scrap dependency. Secondly, uh, like another transformation took place earlier. There were a lot of applications in automobile industry which was very high alloys based, nickel chrome moly. So industry, steel industry along with the component maker and OEMs, they worked really hard to convert these applications from nickel chrome moly to case hardening steel, 20 mm CFI and all, carbon steel. Now another development is micro alloy steel, etc. Now eliminating the in between process of heat treatment, etc. Now another point is raw material has always been a challenge for steel industry because the price of, as Mr. V.R. Sharma also touched on this, price of raw material will suddenly increase without any pre-intimation, while realization of the same through OEM becomes a real tough and big task. As far as this post-pandemic is concerned, yes, nobody forecasted that industry will revive so fast, except Mr. V.R. Sharma, who probably said in the month of April itself, in one of the webinar, that industry is going to have tremendous growth. So yes, we have virtually witnessed it, and nobody expected this. And except commercial vehicle, which has now started showing improvement, all the sectors, be it two-wheeler, three-wheeler, or car segment, or the tractor segment, they are doing one of their best. And I feel now with the scrappage policy, this commercial vehicle will also have a very big, or rather very bright future in times to come. Duties on component, that whatever the vision on Atmanirbhar Bharat, that will further boost the expansion program taken by the processing industry, be it forging industry or any component making industry, or capacity utilization by them. So I see a very good move in the budget by the government for increasing duties. So lot of cheaper imports of components will not be there, and the proper capacity utilization will be there. Besides, the new expansion plan by component industry and will have quick capacity utilization. One more thing, this, as Mr. Pathak led up the issue on EV. Yes, lot of stringent application, cold forge applications will emerge. Lot of different specification, critical specification will emerge in, especially in steel industry, and we should take a challenge along with OEMs to develop all these products. So I see another good opportunity for development of different kind of critical steel for these industries by steel plants. So overall, I see a very good time, and I see 21-22 really revolutionary with respect to automobile component and steel industry, especially steel industry, very bright. once we say this 300 billion ton vision, yes, we need to look at this industry because presently we are producing close to 5 million ton of special steel being consumed by rather largely by automotive and some of the other segment, the defense, railways. So government having a very promising budget for railways and other infrastructure. So that will also further boost the economy, the requirement by the steel industry. But we need to have a fair policy with respect to raw materials too, be it iron ore, coal, or today the rising prices of coal and coke both. Probably more than $75 has increased in last 20 days itself in coal and coke. So these type of uncertainties are being faced by the steel industry. But overall, I see a very bright time, very good time for steel industry. Thank you. If anybody has a question, I can.
Yeah. We will have a lot of questions and a lot of debate. And thanks very much, Mr. Rajkamal, for your opening remarks. Sir, one question, 2 points were emerged, Mr. Sharma, during the opening remarks of Mr. Pathak and Mr. Rajkamal. That one is Mr. Pathak indicated the need of EMI coatings on the steel, or he indicated that we can use some CRGO or CRNGO steels for that specific requirement of EMI. So that is one point I wanted to get clarified from you. And another is microalloyed steel, which Rajkamal mentioned. So how far we have standardized this microalloyed steel? There was I remember there was a discussion in the ministry also and in the industry also regarding converting all the requirements of automakers into 2 or 3 grades consisting of some microalloyed steel. So how far we have done on we have worked on that, Mr. Sharma?
See, as far as microalloyed steels are there, we are able to supply to the customers. Those who are making for Ford Motors or even Bharat Forge, we are supplying the microalloyed steels. But microalloy steels should not be an issue. But today the industry is by and large is bound by the customer's requirement. If you see, there is no rationalization. Somebody wants EN19, somebody wants 4140, somebody wants ACM 440, somebody wants 40 CR4B. They are the same grades, but customer wants as per his specification. So the industry has a real problem in making small lots. You can say that if a heat size is say 40 ton, to make a 40 ton or a 20 ton is not economical. We need to have 2 or 3 sequences so that our cost of production goes down. Also the productivity goes up, but it's not happening. So we have, I think I was one of the member in BIS when we tried to rationalize everything, maybe in 90s or in early 2000, but it never happened. Industry never accepted. Those who have a collaboration with Germany will have a DIN spec, somebody will have SA specification. With Japanese, it will be ACM grade. So steel makers have no choice but to fall into their hands for making those grades. But microalloyed steel or today the carbon steel, you can see for even the very critical components, the Japanese are using S48C carbon steel, or they are using some microalloyed steel. But our industry, we want to use very high alloy steel or medium carbon alloy steel for most of the component. So these designers will decide. I think steel maker have no role to play. Only role is if they come to us, we can suggest them this is the spec we can give, this is the tensile we can give, or this is the properties we can give. So we have no control over it.
Actually, sir, I know, but just 1 minute, Mr. Pathak. I remember we have worked when I was in that ministry's group also, and we have worked something on making a national specification for the microalloyed steel, because every steel mill has different specification even for their own microalloyed steel grades. So making a national specification would help the automakers. That was the idea. But I think that plan also fizzled out. I don't see any development in that respect also. Yes, Mr. Patel, you were saying something.
Yeah. One of the point which I am going to raise, before that, I would like to share that this is my purely personal opinion. It has nothing to do with the Tata Motors policy. See, today we are talking about different grades, as Mr. Sharma has said that those who have the Japanese collaboration, they are looking for SCM grades. Those with the German collaboration or German design
They
genes
look for
in
DIN.
their design, like we people, Tata Motors,
Yeah.
we prefer DIN specifications. Then I worked with earlier John Deere, where the specifications were mostly SAE or AISI kind of thing. There are two things which are happening. In my opinion, steel or any component do not understand whether I am made out of SCM 420 or I am made out of SAE 8620 or 42CR4 or 40CR4V, etc. Depending on the need of the component, what is understood is, let's say if it's a gear kind of component or the component where certain hardenability is required, some heat treatment is required, it can be better governed by the hardenability. If certain components are required to be formed and then certain strength after forming is required, can we have those components? To some extent, this exercise we started when I was a part of John Deere. To some extent, we gave our designers these kind of concepts, and there were some of the design steel specifications where the steel, the chemistry was not specified, only the yield strength was specified, which was the designer's requirement. And then, with the global designs moving all over the world, whatever is available in US may not be available in India. So what was thought was, what is the design requirement? So let's say yield strength 160 was required. So JDMA 160, Y 160 was the grade that was specified on the drawing by John Deere at that point of time. We promoted those kind of grade, and depending on the availability of steel in that particular specific country, those steel grade per se can be specified. The focus was on the what are the end properties we are able to get out of that particular steel. I think if some such kind of activity can be done, and then everywhere you need not have the metallurgist who will have the all background of the steel and all that. So the people like us who had background of steel, which have people like me who had a very good collaboration and understanding with the steel mills, even we prepared some of the charts saying that if the drawing is specifying this grade, what are the other equivalent grades which are available in that respective country. And in John Deere standards, there is a table called JDMA 0 or something like that, which gives the equivalence of various steels globally that is available. So, but in India, probably that kind of move I don't see. Probably the people like Mr. Sandekar, you should take the lead, bring the people together, because this is going to be a good platform to have this kind of interaction. And the problem which Mr. Sharma has said, probably that can we have the sequence of 3, 4, 5, 6? Why 3, 4, 5, 6? Mr. Sharma, I said even one steel mill can be dedicated to one grade only. To that extent, probably the rationalization is possible. And probably, Mr. Sandekar, if you remember, we discussed some time back.
Yes.
And I think we need to take it forward. Again, the problem is who should build the cat. It is both, on the both sides. Steel mill also feel the same thing, and the people like me from OE also feels the same thing. The cat to steel mill. So probably the forum like the Special Steel Convention can take lead into that.
Definitely, Mr. Patel. And as you rightly said, there has to be interest from both the sides, from OEMs also and from steel makers also. Mr. Rajkumar, what do you say?
See, I agree. We can have some channelized approach for making a specific grade in a specific company, specific industry. But today challenges are the variations are so high, the market demand, the pattern the OEM's requirement are so high. As Mr. Sharma already said that I'll tell you the German car makers, they have by and large, or the vehicle manufacturer, they have by and large patronized this alloy steels, basically nickel, chrome, moly, bearing steels, etc., etc. While the Japanese car makers, they require largely this carbon steel or
Chrome moly.
SCM, that chrome moly steel, etc. So this kind of a, first of all, at OEM, that standardization is required. Like for certain application, if Tata Motors uses 20 MNCR5, but the Ashok Lane might be using EN353 or might be using 8620. And for the similar type of application. So I think industry unitedly should take care along with the OEMs and the different kind of value engineering, as we can think of bringing the cost and have some good value engineering with respect to the fatigue life of the component, etc. So I think, but then yes, a deliberation is needed. A group is required to address these issues. But this can be addressed, that's for sure. But then volume with the industry for a specific date has to be addressed first. Suppose somebody in China is making only bearing steel, but that bearing steel they produce close to 1 million ton a year. So if you talk of bearing steel in India, somebody producing even 5 lakh tons, it's not there. So we need to ascertain the demand. We need to ascertain the continuity of that demand. Projections, moreover, our projections are not too constructive with respect to the OEM numbers, with respect to the steel plant numbers, or whatever the future plans, what we envisage and what we achieve. At times, we see a lot of gaps here. I think if these things are addressed, everything is possible. Why not standardization? Why not some industry producing a particular type of steel? That's possible.
Yeah, yeah. It needs very close coordination between all the stakeholders. Then only it is possible. I do agree on that. But before we move forward, and I would like to touch upon the subject of the effect of the recent budget on various sectors of special steels. But before we do that, I think one point I was asking Mr. Sharma about this EMI coated steels that Mr. Pathak was mentioning. So whether it is possible to produce this and whether it is possible to support these OEMs in that respect.
Frankly speaking, I have no idea. Maybe we have to go into more details. First thing that our requirement, our production is basically, my knowledge is only on the long products, basically wire rod, bars, and this. I have no knowledge on the flat products. I never worked in any industry where it is flat products. So I have no knowledge on this. To be very frank.
No issues, no issues. Rajkamal, you want to comment on it?
No, actually, again, like Mr. Sharma, I only have.
Yes, you have been in long products on it. So we will take somebody
to maybe to flat product basically. And
I know.
See, by and large, the special requirement in flat product is also considered as a commodity because the requirement is
I know. Let us address that issue maybe in the second half when there are some of the presentations from the flat product producers also. So, so moving forward, what will be the effect of, say now they have reduced the import duty on steel. That means it is for overseas steel mills also, they can enter the Indian market. How that will affect you as a OEM, Mr. Pathak, or as Mr. Rajkamal, as a steels producer, starting with Mr. Pathak.
Okay. See, obviously, if you see with, as I said, a success story of Indian automotive industry from for migration from BS4 to BS6. Lot of technology, lot of new kind of LR segment, at least people are willing to pay. But if you go to the commercial vehicle segment, where people may not be willing to pay you that money, so how do we compensate that? So obviously we are looking for all.
There is some, I think, issue of Mr. Pathak's internet. Rajkamal, can you?
Am I audible now?
Yes,
I
you
thought
are.
I think there is.
No, now it is okay. Now
Okay,
it is okay. You can start.
Yeah. So I think obviously all the automotive industry are looking for the every corner where we can save the money, because customer is not really willing to pay us, and obviously we are doing business for earning money, definitely not for the charity. So definitely, if such options will be available, though I'm not from the commercial side, the only part is as a technical person, we will make sure that whatever all the requirements are there in terms of the reliability, in terms of the quality, in terms of the consistency, if these three parameters are met with, then probably my colleagues from the commercial area, they will make sure the time and price, and probably they may opt for the imported steel.
Yeah. I agree. See, logistic will also play a big role in this. Not
Yes.
only the price. And what do you think, Mr. Rajkamal? How it will help you, steel mills like you?
See, the global steel prices have also moved up in last 3 months' time. And even not only the steel prices, the iron ore prices, now the coal and coke, that has also started moving up. Even the international prices are not very cheap to have an import, sizable import. And this reduction of import duty, not only reduction in import duty, but deferment of anti-dumping also till 30th September. That will give some opportunity to the importers or to the steel plants out of country to make some gateway in India. And already there is a sizable requirement. And I think in today's market, there is room for everybody. I'm very positive on it.
So it will not affect you in any way. I mean,
Will
Indian
not
steel
affect
mills.
Yes, Indian steel mills will keep on doing well, sir. And only in times to come, like in Europe, you see a lot of steel plants, they are having this cold charge route and the blast furnace route. In India also, after this scrappage policy, in next couple of years' time, we can witness lot of secondary steel mills coming up, because then there will be a lot of scrap, as already somebody said in the segment. That cold charge route will also flourish, and the availability will be very high.
So you feel there should not be any problem for, you can easily accommodate the overseas suppliers in this market.
I already said that 21-22 seems to be promising for everybody, not only for steel industry, but for the OEMs and for this processing industry also.
Okay, now I would like to go to Mr. Pathak. Mr. Pathak, we were discussing about the future of special steels, but I think more than 50% special steel goes into auto industry. So to that extent, future of special steel is strongly linked with the future of auto industry. And I feel that with electric vehicles coming in, would you require that much of steel? Because we have been hearing that the engine components are getting reduced. Once the electric vehicles will be there, they will require far less engine parts, and to that, so far less volume of steel. Whether it is a reality, or how do you see it, all this?
See, if you look at a typical weight of the various,
and what is the time frame? Again, what are the time frame we are looking at?
Right. So even if we are talking about electric vehicles are becoming popular within city, because even the Tata Nexon electric vehicle, there are some kind of unique vehicles which has traveled up to 317, 320 kind of kilometers in one full charging. Typically, under standard test condition, it gives you the drivability of about 218, 220 kilometers per charging. And of course, that depends on again your driving practices, road condition, road traffic, etc. All those parameters are there. But under these circumstances, and again, the cost of EV is still higher because of the various factors. So probably it will take another couple of years again for EVs to become popular. Number one. Number two is again this short span. How companies are looking at. There's one possibility we are thinking of whether swappable batteries are possible. Like a simple example I will give, we have, I mean, again, probably not for the people from Mumbai and Pune, but in other part of the country, or probably even excluding Delhi, we take LPG cylinder in our home, right? And sometimes we get a very good brand new painted, very nice looking and probably very attractive cylinder, and sometimes we get like as if it is dumped, kind of scrap cylinder. It is so bad in looks and all that, but we never mind for it because we are paying for the gas inside it and not the container of it. Probably the similar thing may happen in batteries, that I will, like let's say bus going from Mumbai to Bangalore, halfway is, probably one of the stop is Kolhapur, where while the passengers are taking their food and getting fresh and bio breaks, etc., by the time the bus will go to the charging station, we'll get the batteries swapped, and again bus will be ready for the further journey. And maybe again when there is a next bio break or next change of driver kind of things are happening, again there will be swapping of the battery, and people will not mind, because ultimately he's paying for the fuel, that is the electricity that is being stored in the battery, and not really the batteries. And that's why recently government is considering, I'm not sure whether that law has come into the practice, but government is planning to register the electric vehicle without batteries, because again probably they want to, because see today the almost 30% of the cost of the electric vehicle is the battery cost. So if somebody like, even like me also, when I'm paying 30% cost, which is about say 4 lakhs or so, how can I give my brand new battery to the some diesel to this electric charger whom I never saw before? So that kind of hesitation, typical in Indian minds, we may have. So people are working in that direction. So electric vehicle will come definitely reality, but there will be a change of pattern only. Like as I said, probably the long products which are used into the car or into the vehicle, those will get reduced, but some flat products, the strength, the requirement will go high because we need to compensate on the weight part of it. That is as far as electric vehicles is concerned. But at the same time, safety norms are also being followed. And you may be knowing Tata Nexon is the first Indian car to hit the 5-star rating, Euro NCAP rating for safety. And after that, practically all the competitors were forced to upgrade their design to meet the Euro NCAP requirement. And how this Euro NCAP requirement was definitely there was a big contribution from the special steel, again predominantly from the flat products. So I see there is a good chance, even if electric vehicles will be there, probably after 2030 or 2040, when the autonomous vehicles will come into the picture, really the point which I said in the opening meeting may come up. If there are not going to be any accident, why there will be a need of high strength steel and ultra high strength steels? Probably that will be the scenario.
But our friend Mr. Rajkamal is very bullish on the steel demand, special steel demand. You are saying that electric vehicles will come and then our special steel demand, especially for long, will reduce. So how?
So it depends on the market game, honestly. Because today when I have to buy a new car, I have booked my car recently, so I can tell you, I had a choice of Nexon EV or Nexon petrol or Nexon diesel. Considering all the conditions, I gone for the Nexon petrol. So definitely, when I have gone for Nexon petrol, definitely I have consumed at least one crankshaft, then four
One
con
ton of
rods,
steel. One
four
ton of
con.
steel.
Yeah. So obviously, it all depends on the
But
market
is it
situation and
what is the likely situation? Do you see a advent of?
Chandekar, can I comment on this,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the
Please,
steel
please,
yeah,
demand?
please, sir.
please,
Just,
please.
I have done about 1.5 years back all this work for my company because everybody was worried that the steel demand will go down. What will happen as the EV will come, the steel requirement for the transmission parts will go down, but the overall demand may slow down. Maybe it will not rise with 6% or 7% year on year, but still it will be 3 or 4%. So existing plant will also have a full volume and maybe some growth, but it won't be like a total, going from 140 million to 300 million, or special steel going from 6-7 million to say 15 million. It may slow down, but it won't reduce. But at the same time, I have a very big question that EV is not going to reduce pollution because the manufacturing of lithium consumes lot of energy, and if that energy electrical is coming from thermal power, then you are already
Yeah,
creating
you
a
are just
pollution.
yes, yes.
Uh, the electricity should come from the solar or from the wind power for all this to happen. That
For
is why
hydro or from hydro.
the growth of EV vehicle, even in America, is very, very slow. Not even 10% in California so far. Because my daughter was using EV car, now she has changed to hybrid car because another 100, 120, 150 kilometers she has to charge. The charging time is not high in that country. It's just 25 minutes. You have a lunch and Walmart will charge for you within 25 minutes. So charging time is not very high. You don't need a spare battery there. But again, you cannot drive 300, 400, 500 kilometer and have stoppages. So people go for now hybrid. Hybrid is the, I think,
Yeah.
you can say the
Actually,
main actual vehicle. It's not going to be EV. It will be hybrid, which will
yeah.
take the lead.
That's what I was coming to.
This is
What
my
is the
view.
possibility? Yeah. Very, very valid view, sir. What is the possibility of India going towards hybrid car so that
Uh,
our steel demand will become to that extent intact, remain intact?
See again, one of the personal way I'm going to put here, Mr. Sharma, you said about the pollution.
Yeah.
I fully agree. We are all staying in India. We know what kind of culture, what kind of uh, bypassing tendency for the legal provisions are there. Right now, we are sitting, we are discussing. My car is standing in my parking lot. I can get at this, parking lot in Pune. I can get my PUC certificate from Jammu Kashmir, from Tamil Nadu, from Thar Desert to uh, this Assam or Assam or Bangladesh or so not Bangladesh, West Bengal or NEFA countries, NEFA states, etc. Sitting over here. So this shows how we can bypass the laws. My car is standing here. No one has tested my car, but still I can get PUC certificate.
Mr. Pathak, let us not make such statements on the official platform, sir.
No. I'm coming to the point. What I'm coming to the point is when the controls on the thermal power plants are coming into the picture, they are very limited into the number, and there will be a lot of controls on that. Particularly those of the participants who are from Delhi may know that Badarpur power plant was closed for some days because of the because of pollution norms were not met with. So it's possible to control such polluting norms easily. Number one. Number two is 2 years back, the last thermal power plant was permission was granted to that. After that, government of India has not sanctioning any thermal power plant anymore.
Yes.
So
yes.
electricity is not going to be as dirty as the automotive vehicle per unit. Again, as I said, this is my personal opinion, nothing to do with the Tata Motors official opinion.
Yeah, Mr. Rajkamal, what do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah, I'll say this.
Your joy will be short-lived. Your joy will be short-lived.
I don't
The
think
steel
the demand
demand will
will
come
go
down.
down. It
I,
will
I,
not
I
go
agree with
down.
you.
It won't go
This,
down.
I tell you one thing. This migration from present set of vehicles to electric vehicle requires a change in mindset also, and the infrastructure available in the country.
Hmm.
So as I said, okay, next 3 to 5 years,
Hmm.
we all are going to have the present set of vehicle movement with respect to hybrid vehicles. Hybrid vehicles are there in certain segments. Yes, there is a lot of scope in hybrid vehicle, but then again, hybrid vehicle requires the same set of you say the engine and everything,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
plus
course.
the additional weight. So that will not reduce the consumption. So this mindset change is very important, and I think there are efforts, but from efforts to implementation, I don't see it's going to be there just in 6 months or 1 year or 2 years time. While yes, the future is going to be EV, lot of upgradation will be there, lot of infrastructural development will be there. That all things will be there. I won't touch any unorganized practices because the same cannot continue for long. So government is putting a tab and other nabbing things on all the fronts. So I'm very hopeful as and my all predictions was there with respect to 21, 22.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no. I was also saying in a lighter mood that on a long-term basis, your and my joy will be short-lived.
The
So,
growth will be slow. Growth will be slow,
yeah,
that it
that's
won't
what.
reduce.
Yeah, Mr. Sharma is saying. Growth will be
Growth
slow.
will be slow. I have worked on it for one and a
Migration
half
will
year
be there
almost.
from existing set of components to different set of components, but then steel requirement will be there, and weight may get reduced and so many other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Agar somebody has asked one question in your absence about peeled route for this month or next month, we are going to finalize, but it is going to be heat treatment and also the peeling. It won't be only the peeling route, but that we have a plan to set up. But
Yeah.
it will take time, maybe it's another 6 to 8 months, because now the steel is doing well. So we have excess funds to invest. That is why first we
Absolutely.
are investing in. We have put a ultrasonic inline, which has cost us a lot.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
third stand, which is costing almost 10 crores. And again, we are putting, other things. They are all expensive items. And banks are not
Hello,
giving
hello.
loans for
I,
any
I, I,
expansion now.
I request others to put off their audios, please.
Yeah, please.
I request others to put off their audios. I expect and I request others to put off their audios. It is interfering in the discussion.
Mhm.
It is, yeah, now it is better.
Hmm.
So suddenly my internet went off. So there was a problem from my side.
Hmm.
I hope the discussion continued. Your discussion continued.
Yeah.
No, there
Yeah,
was one question by one
yeah,
person about my plant, but I answered
yeah,
him.
yeah. That's
There
okay.
is one,
That's okay.
there was one more question which came on the screen.
Hmm.
Somebody asked about what about induction route for special steel making.
Yeah, yeah. That I wanted to take up that issue. Whether now it is possible to take make special steels with induction furnace. So that was the issue. What
Uh,
has been your experience and your expertise on this? So what do you think?
well, the especially the stainless steel,
Hmm.
you can melt in induction furnace because whether you melt in arc furnace or induction, it's only melting unit. But the induction furnace gives you advantage in melting stainless steel because you don't need to do any refining because
Mhm.
phosphorus cannot be removed in stainless steel whether you melt in arc furnace or you melt in induction furnace. But later on, you can take it to AOD or VOD, and this is the possible. So stainless steel making is better in induction furnace compared to arc furnace. If you want to make only stainless steel, better to go for induction furnace, maybe 30, 40, 50 ton or even
Mhm.
20 ton onward. It will be better than arc furnace
Yeah.
costing also. But as far as special steel is concerned, or even today we people make TMT, the phosphorus cannot be removed, and whatever steel you get in the market through induction route, guarantee for phosphorus is very, very difficult, because you have to melt the whatever is available. Even if you are able to do it, the refining, what we call, removal of gases, removal of inclusion, flotation, induction furnace can make special steel, provided they are VI, vacuum induction furnaces. In the world over, the tool steel in 5 ton, 10 ton, 15 ton, small induction furnaces are made, because tool steel is in small demand, and you can make a tool steel in vacuum induction furnace, not only in induction furnace, it should be vacuum induction furnaces, so that all cleanness is taken care, pour in ingot, do forging, and then do small part, small, rolling mill, you can roll it. But alloy through induction furnace, I think, to my knowledge, will not meet same quality levels, either arc furnace or through blast furnace and BOF followed by ladle furnace, vacuum degas. It will not be.
Yeah, sir, I just want to add here one thing, that there were experiments on this subject regarding making of special steels in induction furnace. I think there were some experiments being done at NML Jamshedpur or NIST Mandi Govindgarh, but I don't know. Some people claim that they can reuse phosphorus and sulfur in induction furnace. I don't know. Maybe Rajkamal, you can throw some light on this. Are you aware of anything like this?
As far as my knowledge goes, dephosphorylation is not possible in induction furnace.
Yeah, I know. Conventionally, that is the doctrine, that is the expertise, but some experiments are being done. That's what I was told.
Induction furnace is garbage.
In a ladle furnace after tapping, but it is not a technically, or you can say commercially viable process. You can make slag, again drain it out, again make a new one, but the productivity will be hampered. On this, I have also done a lot of work in last 2-3 years, but it's not possible. I will not recommend to go with the induction furnace.
Okay. Mr. Pathak, your views on this, and how far this sulfur and phosphorus requirement is stringent, and for what it is stringent?
No, those requirements, as I said, are very stringent from our side. Of course, for sulfur, there are certain resulfurized grades where heavy machining is involved, where we are looking for the minimum sulfur. But otherwise, sulfur and phosphorus, definitely we are looking towards zero. I know it's not zero is not possible, but we are looking towards zero.
Sulfur plus phosphorus should be less than 0.1, something of that sort, I think.
Yes.
That is the requirement.
No, not 0.1. For special steel, I will say 0.05.
0.020 for forging.
Yeah, that was for
machinability.
Yeah.
But generally 0.25 phosphorus, 0.25 sulfur, or even for CHQ as low as 0.10 sulfur.
Yeah, whether it is boron steel or cold forging application, be it your
lower the better.
Fasteners, etc. Lower the sulfur, lower the phos, it is preferred.
And no, it is more dependent on the rather steel mill expertise. We are looking for the end result. Only the process expertise lies with the other colleagues, panelists.
Yeah, so one more point I wanted to tell. In the union budget, there has been an increase in the import of steel components. I mean the forgings and castings. So how that is going to affect our industry? Because there are, I'm taking this issue because there are a lot of participants who are from forging industry. Again, I think I request delegates to put up their audio. I request the
February तो मार्च में आ जा कई तारीख
अरे भाई ऑडियो बंद करो अपना कौन है ओके
अरे चंदू हेलो
Should I?
ओ चंदू भाई चुनी भाई તમારો ઓડિયો બંધ કરો
ऑडियो बंद करो भाई हेलो
Yeah, should I?
Yeah.
See.
Yeah. Anyway, so why I'm
Yeah.
taking this issue is, Rajkamal, just a minute. Why I'm taking this issue is there are a lot of participants who are from forging industry. So for their benefit also, we have to discuss this that how this new government policy is going to help them, whether it is going to help them or not. Number two, are we going towards, as you know, we have planned several years back that India would be a hub, international production hub of auto components. Whether that
Component.
is going to be a reality. Just I would like to, you people throwing some light on this issue.
In my initial discussion, I said that Detroit, that Chennai
Yes.
to Bangalore, Detroit.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
I said another, Delhi NCR is Detroit.
Yes.
See, lot of quality component manufacturers, they have already come into India and they are exporting components. See, there is a forging industry. Now it's no more a forging industry, it's a finished component industry. They give largely components ready to fit to the OEMs.
Okay. Okay.
And there is a lot of exports taking place. Increasing duty on imports, first of all, will help domestic industry for their own capacity utilization. Secondly, whosoever has undertaken this expansion plan with respect to further enhancing the capacity, whether at forging or machining or finishing stages, they will have additional capacity utilization without moving here and there. See, increasing duty on components is basically addressing this Atmanirbhar Bharat
Yeah. Yeah.
to promote the domestic industry to have minimal dependence on imports.
Correct.
And India has already emerged as a sizable component exporter to Europe, America, rather across the globe. Whether they have a manufacturing facilities here or they have, some of them have some joint venture, something in China, etc. But then we have already emerged, and there's a lot of scope once this another capacity for steel making will be there. As Sharmaji said, green field seems to be difficult, brown field again, whatever is available, that has been taken over by one or the other giant. Now we need to have some sort of a green field capacity and government initiatives on this. So somebody has to think on quality steel production. And now there will be two different segments. One will be the basic electric arc furnace route, another will be the blast furnace route. So I think there will be opportunity in both the segments, and this imposing duty on component will positively help in by the component industry for exports and for capacity utilization also. So I look at it very positively.
So you feel India will be a global hub for auto components?
Yes, in times to come, India is going to be global hub of auto component.
Mr. Pathak,
We are already a sizable component maker and exporting.
Actually, as Rajkamal has said, we are definitely supplying. Particularly, I've worked in the companies which were multinational, and very emerging department at that point of time was IPO, we used to call International Purchase Offices. Practically all the global OEMs had their IPOs in India, and they are doing a sizable business. And we are consistently fair in quality. Yes, there were some initial hiccups to understand the quality requirements, but having worked on those shortcomings very quickly, we responded. Indian automotive industry, I'm saying component industry responded very positively, and they are really earning a good benefits out of it. Like, and not only in the steel, even in the casting industry. If you look at Kolhapur, even the small foundries, they are exporting their products. Of course, again, as Rajkamal has said, not in the forged form or not in the raw form, but as a full finished component. And I think that is where some initial hiccups were there, but now those have gone, and we are really emerging out as a good hub, and particularly with the international unrest about China in the COVID pandemic scenario. People are looking towards other countries, and India is one of them for getting the components from us.
Yeah, I
Like,
think
what you
so.
touch that China part here. Yes, there is a focus from Europe and America to look at India at a potential for meeting their requirements.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, see, what has happened is, number one, as the very few Indian sectors have been consistently exporting. That means they are consistent in, otherwise, Indian steel mills or many Indian sectors have been seen as opportunistic exporters. Unlike that, I think auto component is one sector where India has been very consistent in exporting. So that has created a good, goodwill about the auto component industry abroad also. And second point is that will generate some extra demand for steel, isn't it, Rajkumar? For
Yeah,
steel mills also,
actually,
it is good.
somebody was discussing the JIT, just in time ZIT
Yeah,
policy.
yeah,
The same is followed in Europe and America also. So the processor who is processing the component in India, he
yeah.
has to have 1 month stock in the yard there. He has to have 1 month stock in transit. He has to have 1 month stock finishing stage in India, and at least 2 months at raw material and production stage. Totally five
Absolutely.
months cycle. So problem becomes when there is a some sort of recession at the end point, then the correction starts taking place, and then
Yeah.
then there's a late chain reaction.
Mhm.
But overall, time is good. We are very positive. From Jaiswal Nico,
Yeah.
we are absolutely positive, and
Mhm.
we are doing lot of focus in value addition. Somebody said Bright Bar also. We are already there in Bright Bar, sizable supplier. Probably whether it is drawn and down, it is peeled and round. So,
Yeah.
and we are a sizable supplier to railways for their spring,
Yes.
etc. So I see everything very positive. At least 21, 22 should be the remarkable year for component industry, for steel industry, for OEMs. Let's
God
keep our
willing.
finger crossed.
Yes. Keep our fingers crossed. So now we are also coming to the end of this session. But before we end, I would like to have final comment from everybody, starting from Mr. Pathak.
Yeah. Uh, One of the sector I think which we have not touched upon is the defense segment and defense sector, which is opening big way in India.
Yeah.
Some of us might have visited the Defex Expo, which has happened in Lucknow. I happened to be there, and I was really proud to see that lot of overseas customer are coming to India for buying the this defense component, and good to see that there were the companies like L&T, Tata Motors, Bharat Forge had a big stalls, and not only the big companies but even couple of startup companies were there who had their stalls, and they were attracting lot of customers, overseas customers, for their defense buying. And that is going to be the another challenge. I mean, again, the quality requirements there are high, the requirements are totally different, and that is one of the area where I think all of us also can have a focus so that we can increase the steel component there. One of the small example I will tell you that when we joined, about 12 years back, the Tata Motors has started into the defense main battle vehicles. We started producing, and today we have about various models with the configuration like 4x4, 6x6, 8x8, those kind of the defense vehicle which otherwise we used to see either from Tata or from some American companies, and all those kind of what otherwise we used to see in the European war movies. Those kind of trucks and heavy vehicles are being manufactured in India, and even not only the vehicles but even the value addition to it is done the way Bharat Forge is doing, like having the complete, uh, you know, uh, this gun on mounted onto those kind of vehicles. So those are the kind of sectors which are opening up, and I feel there's a good opportunity. But again, as I said, the technical requirements and skill set there are different, and again they are unique. But I think we should be able to meet those conditions and those requirements.
Yes, yes, yes. Just adding to that, this indigenization of defense equipments, this big program was undertaken under the leadership of late Manohar Parikarji, and it was, one such expo was there in Goa, and I think the second was in Lucknow, and
Yeah.
this has opened lot of avenues, lot of demand for prospective demand opportunities for special steels. Another area is railways and metros. So, Rajkamal, can you throw some light on the requirement of special steels in railways and metros?
Yeah, see, first I'll touch this defense program.
Yeah, yeah. Defense is very
Lot of
important.
defense program is going on, but the only issue, the gestation period of these programs are very long. The stringent requirement, the approvals, the prototype are from zero, because as new startups and even the Punj Lloyds, etc. There were a couple of names, even Reliance. So they are in this defense sector. But see, lot of people pulled their hand back only on account of gestation. You make investment today, and by the time of implementation, it takes 3, 4, 5, 6 years time. And finally, you are not aware that things will come to you or not. That assurance of business is not there. But with respect to steel, with respect to component, there are continuous inquiries, the new grades, new value engineering, new specifications, and that is there with the steel plants and with the different processing industry like Bharat Forge, etc., who are already doing fantastically well in different defense programs. With respect to railways, these German coaches and other things. So lot of different, see, earlier the component stringent requirement was different. Today it is very different. Earlier probably they were using 36, 38, 42 dia. Now they have gone up to 58 dia, 60 dia, the coil springs, and once you see the big stack of springs, etc. in railway bogies. And so the dimensions are changing very fast. The criticalities are tremendous, but I see complete buoyancy in defense and railway sector and other government sectors also.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe with this we can have some last comments from everybody. Yes, Mr. Pathak, last comments.
Yeah. So I foresee there are a lot of opportunities and challenges both for the special steel industry in the coming days. It's neither controlled by automotive nor controlled by the steel mills, but it will be more driven by the Indian economy and the buying pattern of Indian customer. That will decide the fate who will be the beneficiary.
Well said, well said. Mr. Rajkamal, last comment.
Yeah, interest rates are coming down. That stability in economy after COVID, we can always see. We can always see the moving positive numbers in the buying pattern in vehicles by the individuals. So I'm very positive, and I'm very ambitious rather, that things are going to be very positive for OEMs, for steel and for component industry.
Thank you. Well said. Well said. And Mr. Sharma, please, your last comments.
I feel, the steel quality requirements, whatever will come, I think steel industry is equipped for all this. And maybe they are also, modifying everything, whether it requires, inline ultrasonic or inline magnaflux or improving cleanness levels. I think steel industry, I feel, is doing very well. In fact, the learning curve have reduced a lot. Today, you can say most of the component, when it comes for, prepap, it's the first time right. Now that is the situation of most of the industry. So I feel the special steel has a very good future, and it may grow, may not grow at very high level, maybe I will say 5-6% year on year. and by 2030, I look at maybe 12 to 15 million, special steel selling in India. And because of the main requirement, maybe not only by domestic industry, also component industry. Because in last 3 years with my present assignment, I have discussed lot of special steel requirement with the export industry, whether it is Rajkot or it is in Chennai or in many other part of the country or in say near Delhi belt. So people are now exporting components and the requirements are increasing, and I feel very good future for special steel industry. This is my take.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharma. And as you say, as everybody says that we are very bullish on the future of special steels. I hope we had very absorbing discussion covering almost all points. I don't think any point has been remaining. But if at all there are some points, I am speaking to delegates. If at all there are some points remaining, they can put it in the chat box and we can address them post lunch. And with this, I thank all the panelists, Mr. Pathak. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Rajkamal. And thanks, Sharmaji, for your valuable contribution in this panel discussion. And that comes to that brings us to the end of this panel discussion. Thank you. We will be back with the first business session at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.